It's the end of an era. Something that can be said right now across several leagues and teams, but this time out in Seattle, where after 14 seasons, Pete Carroll is out as the Seahawks head coach. Team's chair Jody Allen announced the news on Wednesday. However, maybe it's not exactly a goodbye, more like a see you later, as it was revealed that Carroll is to remain within the Seahawks organization as a team advisor.
I'm freaking jacked. I'm fired up. I'm not tired. I'm not worn down. You guys tried your best. You didn't wear me out. It's the end of the season. I'm supposed to be, go lay on a cot somewhere. I ain't feeling like that. And, there's what's coming. I don't know. I got no idea, and I really don't care right now. But I do. I'm excited about it because there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to study. There's some great discoveries that are going to come our way. And as my all-time mentor Bud Grant said, not in so many words, there's rivers to wade, there's waves to catch, and there's mountains to hike. And it wasn't exactly how Bud said it, but I get it, and some cool stuff that we're going to do here, and I look forward to all that.
What are you going to miss most about coaching?
The chance of being in one of those parades. Yeah, the thrill of a lifetime was being in that parade, and for our fans and the people and all that. And that's, I don't know, who's to say? I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm not sure about that. But that pursuit to the greatness of the moment that you celebrate with everybody, man, ain't nothing like it.
The chance to be in one of those parades, well, he definitely got to be in one. Carroll was the winningest coach in Seahawks history, totaling 137 regular season wins and 10 playoff victories, including the franchise's first and only Super Bowl. He led his team to at least 7 wins in each of his 14 seasons with the Seahawks. Carroll was the oldest active head coach in the NFL this year at 72 years old, hanging up the headset for good in Seattle. We are now joined by CBS Sports lead NFL insider Jonathan Jones as we dive into yet another coaching bombshell across the NFL. Now, Jonathan, this isn't like maybe some of the other coaching vacancies where a coach is making an exit after a lackluster season. Carroll and the Seahawks with a 9-8 record, perhaps one win away from a postseason spot or maybe a loss by another team. But what can you tell us on what led to this decision and what maybe lies ahead for Carroll?
Well, Jody Allen, who now controls the Seattle Seahawks, had essentially decided that there was a change of direction that was necessary with the Seahawks. In that press conference that we played clips from, Pete Carroll said he fought to remain the head coach. He said after the game on Sunday, he repeated again on Monday on the radio that he anticipated being the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, that he had no interest in stepping down, stepping away, whatever sort of term or phrase that you want to use. And so he's no longer the coach. And they don't want to term this a firing or a resignation or a retirement, just simply that he was the coach and now he is not. But he is going to be in an advisory role. It is clear that John Schneider, the general manager of the Seattle Seahawks, at least Pete Carroll wants him to lead this team because over the past decade and a half, Pete Carroll has been the chief football executive there. Even though John Schneider has that GM title, Pete Carroll has been the one that has controlled things there and really controlled it incredibly well. From 2012 to 2020, this is a Seahawks team that had the second best record of the entire NFL behind only the New England Patriots in that Tom Brady, Bill Belichick dynasty. But in the past 3 years, a record below 500, one playoff appearance. And again, as you note, very close to another one this season. And maybe if they were able to conjure up some magic there at the end of the season or cast a spell on another team, perhaps we would be not talking about this with Pete Carroll and the Seahawks. But instead, good wasn't good enough in Seattle, and that's why we have the move there.
And Carroll, I feel like in my mind, has almost become synonymous with the Seahawks. Missing the postseason just twice over his last 6 seasons. We think about the resurrection of Geno Smith's career with what he was able to do under Carroll. They drafted some high-impact rookies this year. They now have 23 veterans set to become free agents this offseason. What do you think lies ahead next for the Seahawks team?
Well, it's a good team, and they have some good pieces, but look, you have some big question marks at very key spots. Let's start with ownership. I mentioned Jody Allen earlier. She took over the team from her brother who passed away, Paul Allen, in 2018. She just made her first major decision. And so what is this team going to look like continuing forward under her stewardship without the captain of the ship, Pete Carroll, there as the chief football executive? Next, what is John Schneider? What is his vision for this team going to be? That's going to be different from what Pete Carroll had. How is he going to be as the true primary football executive? Next, who's going to be the quarterback? Geno Smith, comeback player of the year last year, a good season this year. Does the next coach believe that he can win with Geno and a contract that, frankly, you could get out of if you don't necessarily believe in him? So those are three massive pillars of figuring out how good of a job this is. If you talk to anyone in the NFL with all of these jobs that are open, you're going to talk about ownership. You're going to talk about personnel structure and control. And you're going to talk about the quarterback, and maybe not in that order. All three of those are questions that the next head coach will certainly have to have answered.
Yeah, maybe one of the more attractive opportunities that are available right now when we look across some of these teams with those head coaching vacancies. But Jonathan, I feel like we can't talk about the head coaching carousel without tapping into what's going on out in Foxborough. Has there been any new developments in this Bill Belichick situation and his future in New England?
Well, he was in the building today because he's still the Patriots head coach, because there's still work to be done. Look, he said on Monday morning at his end-of-season wrap-up press conference, he learned from his father, I'm going to keep coming to work until someone tells me not to come into work anymore. No one's told him that. We believed that there were going to be a series of meetings between Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft. Truly and honestly, only those two really know where things stand right now. But I can tell you that the entire league for weeks has anticipated that Bill Belichick will not return to the New England Patriots in 2024. What that looks like, whether that is a firing, certainly does not seem like it's going to be a resignation or a retirement based off what Belichick said on Monday. A mutual parting of ways. I think a trade is possible, but even if a trade, Kiana, does take place, it will not take place for at least another week, just due to NFL rules and regulations and guidelines and bylaws about how to necessitate a trade to another team while the interview process is ongoing. And so I don't view a trade as a likely scenario right now. I would anticipate, just based off of practicing good business, that we would have some resolution at some point this week, maybe before we get into the weekend. But I would tell you that if it is Monday and there is no statement about Bill Belichick's future and his key card continues to work in Foxborough, but no one really knows if it will the next day or the next day, that is when we get into the potential trade scenario becoming more likely. But that's, again, going to be a few days from now.
Jonathan, between no longer a hoodie on the sidelines in New England and chewing gum walking the sidelines in Seattle, there is tons to unpack and most certainly many more dominoes to fall as the coaching carousel rolls on in the first week post-regular season. Jonathan, we appreciate the insight. Thank you. And looking at that head coaching carousel in the NFL, some more vacancies as Black Monday rolls on into Wednesday. We talked about the Falcons and Arthur Smith going their separate ways. Back in December, the Chargers separating from Brandon Staley. The Raiders still with some questions, going separate ways with Josh McDaniels, but Antonio Pierce stepping in the locker room, rallying behind him, what they decide to do with that situation. The Panthers, not quite performing the way that you expect, especially developing that first-round quarterback with Frank Reich going separate directions. The Commanders and Ron Rivera. We just recently heard the news on Monday about Mike Vrabel and the Tennessee Titans and what they're going to do. And most recently, news on Wednesday with the Seattle Seahawks and Pete Carroll no longer roaming the sidelines, however, remaining with the franchise as an advisor. I'm sure as the coaching news continues to unravel, we will have you updated here on CBS Sports HQ.